Okay, Aaron. So we've kind of broken down what you would consider the top 8, the guys who are going to go in the first round. We mentioned that there's going to be a couple of running backs in the first round. We just don't know who they're going to be because there's not really an elite prospect. So we've got 5 running backs here that we kind of put in that top tier. And you can tell me if you think I'm missing somebody in the top tier, or if you think maybe a couple of these guys are a little bit separated. But we've got Braelon Allen from Wisconsin, Trey Benson from FSU, Blake Corum from Michigan. Can we just pencil him into the Chargers right now? Austin Eckler replacement for Jim Harbaugh or for Harbaugh?
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, and then Will Shipley out of Clemson. I'm not worried too much about the order that we've got these guys in. No. But do you think, is this the top 5, and are they similarly valued for you?
I have Bucky Irvin in there. I think they're all similarly valued. I think, sadly, the best one might have been Trey Benson, but the injury history, I think, is going to hurt him. But yeah, they're all similar. And like I said, I have Bucky Irvin in there.
And we don't see any of these guys until round 2. How many of these guys do you think go in round 2 of the NFL draft?
The NFL draft?
One or two?
Yeah, I was having that conversation the other day about how many do we see in day 2 period. I think maybe we see one squeak into round 2, maybe 1 or 2 more. Like, this could be, I don't know what the lowest amount of running backs we've had go in the first 2 days. We might break that record. Like, there might be 2 or 3 by day 2.
And that is really interesting because, like I said, we've got a lot of running backs who have been top 12, top 20 performers who are either at the end already, or by May, we're going to think they're not producing fantasy points anymore. And so if we also don't have a bunch of high-end running backs coming in, I think that's going to leave an opportunity for some day 3 running backs to really have big rookie years.
Yeah, if I need a running back, trade some of these wide receivers. Like, if you don't need the wide receiver, you don't need the tight end or the quarterback, trade some of these guys for the FOMO. People want that first round pick. Trade them for a veteran, not even a veteran. Some of the younger ones, you'd be amazed what you can get for Marvin Harrison Jr. You can pretty much get any running back you want for him. And if I need the running back, give me the running back, because you're not going to get him in this draft class. There's some scary ones, and like I was saying earlier, you've got 5, 6 if you include Bucky Irvin, and this is going to come down to, it's not talent, it's whoever gets the best landing spot in capital. That's the one everyone's going to fall in love with, and that's who's going to go in the first round. But it doesn't mean he's the best. Like you said, if Blake Corum follows Harbaugh to the Chargers, he's going to go in the first round. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to pay off. So it's really scary.
So you mentioned Benson as, kind of maybe the most talented, but the injury concerns are probably going to knock his draft capital down. Who would you bet on being the first running back drafted?
Braelon Allen. That's a tough one. It depends on how gutsy the Chargers get here. Braelon Allen, I think either one, Allen or Corum, goes at the end of the second round somewhere.
Yeah, and I made the joke about Corum, obviously, because he played for the current Chargers head coach. And I would not expect, like I said, Austin Eckler replacement, but I wouldn't expect in this new offense that throwing to the running back is going to be a huge part of it. I think it's going to be Justin Herbert throwing downfield more, and I think they're going to be looking for a guy that can pound it, probably 2 guys that can pound it, a veteran and a rookie. I wouldn't expect Eckler back in that situation. But speaking of pass catchers, we know that's the fastest way to fantasy value for a running back, and maybe the only thing that matters amongst running backs. Who is the best pass catcher in this class?
Well, actually, I have to go back to that Chargers point. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Harbaugh not bring the OC from Michigan with him?
Yes.
That happened to you. Well, okay, so if anyone would know how to use Blake Corum, it wouldn't be them. I don't think they're great at using him. He's not a great pass catcher. I don't think he profiles as a goal line back, and that's what they turned him into. For me, the best all-around back and the best pass catcher here, I want Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. I said earlier, I love this Texas draft class, and I'm gonna have drafts where I have my first, second, and third pick are all Texas players. So I like Jonathan Brooks as an all-around pass catcher.
Now, when you talk about him as an all-around pass catcher, do you think he slots into that airback role, or is he somebody who can be a great pass catcher and also still tote the rock 15 times a game in the NFL?
I think he's got a lot of similarities to Roschon Johnson for me. I think he's a great runner, and he's going to be on the field because he's also a really good pass catcher. Like, he's not the elite, he's not the Bijan level pass catcher, but I don't think any of the guys in this class were the elite. They're all kind of, average to slightly above average pass catchers. He, I think, is the closest to a natural pass catcher.
It is really, it does kind of work out well, at least for the guys at the very end, because that kind of what we talk about on this show a lot is don't draft a running back if you're not a contender. Like, if you're making a bunch of rookie picks and you're not contending this year, let's just draft wide receivers and quarterbacks and maybe the tight end in round 2. And so I think you see it from what it sounds like in rookie drafts. We may have 2 or 3 running backs that slide into the end of the first round.
Yep.
But then we should have another dry spot, right? Like, these teams that are picking at the top of the second round, we kind of don't like these running backs enough to take them if they don't get a great landing spot. And there's another wave of wide receivers right behind them that are probably better anyway.
Yeah, for me, like, the first rounds I've seen, I've had 4 quarterbacks and 7 receivers going. Yep. And then the first running back has been the 201. So if you assume 1 or 2 of them get pushed up to the 111, 112, you could conceivably not see the second run of 4 or 5 go until the 205, 206, 207. It's a really odd draft class for running backs.
I guess the nice thing is, like, if you are in that situation where you've been a contender and your running backs are really in a garbage situation, I talk about this all the time because it's me. I have a team that lost the championship last year, and I've got Breece Hall and Khalil Herbert and basically nothing else at running back on that team. I don't know how I made it to the championship, but yeah, I mean, you might get 2 or 3 cracks at drafting a top 6 running back from this class just because there's not a lot of guys that are going to get excited about. Let's talk about the next round of wide receivers. So I had Troy Franklin in this group. You would not, but who would kind of the wide receivers, if somebody's going to double up at wide receiver and they got one of the elite guys early, who are the early second round wide receivers for you?
My co-host on my show calls him Troy Franklin too. There's something about his name. It comes out as Franklin every time.
Franklin.
So, it's Troy Franklin. That's pretty much the exact group I have here. I like Adonai Mitchell. I also added in, you do have Brian Thomas up there. That's pretty much who I have. The one I've seen who's been falling, and I don't know why, this seems to be just the personal preference group. Keon Coleman has been the one falling to the middle or late second round in all of them. And I'm not sure why. It's a pretty balanced group, but Adonai Mitchell is the guy for me. 6'4", 196, allegedly. I know he's a little slower than this group, but the rest of them seem like they're primarily going to be deep threat speed guys here, the one-trick pony type. And I think he has the best all-around skill set, although, like all of them, his route tree is a little limited, and he has some deficiencies in it and needs to work on it. But I just think he has the most all-around talent.
So if these 5 guys are not 5, because you take Troy Franklin, but man, it does just come out that way, doesn't it? So if Mitchell's gone, you're okay trading back a couple of spots because you don't see a huge difference between Coleman, Thomas, and Worthy. Is that right?
Absolutely. This is going to be one of those times where I'll trade back a few picks a lot in this draft to acquire extra capital, because to go back to our running back point, if you need a running back, this may be the draft to trade back for a similar tier, get later picks, and just stockpile those late running backs and hope that you hit on the Kyren Williams, because I don't think the second round running backs are any more likely to hit than whoever emerges in training camp out of, the later running backs.
Do you feel like we're looking here, kind of what is the top of the second round, but also those running backs, 3 or 4 of those running backs we just looked at will be there in the second round. I think Sanders, the tight end you brought up earlier, he's probably going to be available there in the second round. How do you feel about this second round compared to usual? Like, are you trying to actively acquire second round picks right now because you want to get several of these guys, or are you more willing to deal your second round pick for a veteran starter?
If I have a second round pick and I need a tight end, I love Sanders here. It all depends for me on what happens here in the draft. If the running backs get pushed up, I don't mind having some extra seconds because I'll scoop up the receivers that fall. I don't really love this second round in general. Like, I know we said it was a loaded draft class. I don't really feel that way. Last year, I noticed there was a big drop off. I think we would all agree around the 110 in rookie drafts. It's very similar here. Like, it's loaded to 106. Then we have the second tier of receivers that take you to about 109, 110. Then it gets dicey with, the third tier of quarterback, the first tier of running back. It's really scary. I think this is going to be a good draft to have the late picks, not necessarily the second rounders, but turn the second rounders into a lower pick in the second and a late third rounder, like I said, to load up and try and find the Puka Nacua or the Kyron Williams here. Because I think once you get past the 110, there aren't really many standouts. And you see running back, wide receiver, there's just large groups of guys clustered together, all with very similar profiles.